about the Iranians putting up $40 million as a bounty to assassinate Trump?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't Trump just cut him off of everything?
Lawrence County depends on WDXE News on the air since 1951. This is The Legend. 105.3, 95.3, WDXE.
And we have made it to Friday with Stan Pierchoski and Bulletproof Estate Planning.
We have made it.
How are you, buddy?
Good, good.
All the way back to Friday again.
It is Friday again.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, have you had a good week?
I did have a good week. We had a banner week that I was going to talk a little bit about. Had some great things happen with the business. And first I want to talk about my seminar, which is, boy, Joe and LB like these mics kind of hot, don't they?
Well, your headphones are probably up.
Oh, okay.
That's probably what, because he can't hear.
Oh, I don't hear too good myself either. But
is that you?
Much better, much better. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
All right.
Yeah, your headphones are just up. It's not the mic.
Okay.
Okay.
We got our seminar tomorrow. It's Saturday, 10 o'clock in the morning. It's going to be at the Star Theater right next to my office.
No, that's tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow. And we starts at 10 o'clock. We call it Wills, Trust, and the Nursing Home. And that's what we talk about. So, I get a lot of great reviews on these seminars because it's a lot of information, but it's a lot of information you might not have heard of, and you get some options that you didn't know were out there. And I guarantee when you hear what the options are, you'll be interested in them because you hadn't heard of them before, because they're not mainstream. I mean, you don't find them on the internet. If you do, you don't find much about them on the internet. So it is a great seminar to come to. I think enough people have come to them that other people tell them about them and stuff like that. So if you're over here in Lawrenceburg and you want to come to it, feel free to. It's a nice, easy drive over to Pulaski. It's right on the square. If you need the physical address for it, it's a Star Theater, but the physical address is 105 North 1st Street in Pulaski. Right on the square, you can't miss it. Southeast corner. My office is right next door, but don't come to my office, it'll be closed. But in front of the very next building beside me, we'll have like the red velvet ropes out, like we do for a theater. So you'll get to the right place. And it's a big venue. We have some 50-some people, I think, already RSVP'd, but inevitably we have walk-ins as well as people who can't make it at the last minute. So it's okay at this late hour. If you can come, don't worry about RSVPing. Just show up. There's room. Walk-ins are welcome. We'll find a place for you.
That's great.
We're going to talk about this kind of stuff. We're going to talk about, I did a show. Well, I don't like to talk about other radio stations, but I did a show on another radio station on Nashville.
That's okay.
Where I did I talked about this a couple times in the last few weeks here, but this I did a deep dive on the one big beautiful bill. Okay, I got the thing, got a PDF of it. It's 1,116 pages long, as signed in by the president. Okay, and I wanted to do it. I looked at it when it came out of the House, and when the Senate was messing with it, stuff like that. But this was the final version I looked at, and I wanted to address the issues of. I didn't talk about this last week, did I?
Nope, I don't remember.
I don't remember either. I talked about it a couple times. But
we talked about a little bit about this bill. We did.
I wasn't going to talk about it much today. I was just going to say that there's nothing, when you watch the news, you hear the opponents of this talk about all the cuts they're going to make. And they say they're cutting and slashing Medicare. Do you know that the word Medicare does not exist in that document? I looked for it, I couldn't find it. I actually did a word search in a PDF document for the word Medicare. It's not there. Not even mentioned. There's nothing done to Medicare. So when you hear somebody get on the TV and say they're slashing Medicare, it's either total non-understanding or intentional misrepresentation is what it is. Because it's not there. Because they're banking that you won't go look at it, and you just take their word for it.
I'm betting on the latter.
Yeah, that's right. Now, there is some stuff in there about Medicaid, which is where we deal a lot with. Medicaid is the thing that deals with long-term care. But in my opinion, the changes they made are either positive or some of them are so minor that I see little to no impact at all on what I do. Like getting eligible for care. Actually, the positive changes are things like they are making some cuts. And the people that should be upset about the cuts, the people that shouldn't be on the program in the first place.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
Here's where the cuts are being made. You hear me often say that to get eligible for TennCare, you got 3 categories to satisfy. Medically needy. I mean, you got to have a reason to be in a facility, right? Income, eligibility, and asset and resources, right? Actually, there's 5 categories. I don't talk about the first 2 because they're kind of a gimme.
Yeah.
But this bill addresses the first two. So the very first thing you have to do before you can get on any kind of Medicaid in any state, in TennCare's ours, is you gotta be a United States citizen. That's number one. Number two is you gotta be a resident of the state of Tennessee. So I don't ever talk about those because it's usually not an issue. It comes up every now and then, but, so one of the cuts they're making, beginning in January of '27, I believe, is if you're, getting rid of everybody that's getting benefits that's not a United States citizen. The illegal aliens that are getting TennCare,
Right.
they're getting rid of, and I am all for that. I mean, if you need TennCare, self-deport, come in the right way,
Yeah.
and apply for it, like the rest of us. It's a program for us, it's not for them, and it becomes a drag on the system. And so I'm all for that. So those are the cuts they're gonna make. So the only people that are mad about those cuts are the people that are freeloading on the system. Now, I'm sorry I'm using strong terms,
Yeah.
but that's the way I feel. You may feel differently, but I think that's good news for the program. Now, they're also adding $185 billion that they're gonna distribute among the states for extra money for folks. Now, I don't know how much of that we'll get, because I don't know how many people in Tennessee are illegal aliens on it. I'm sure there's some, but there are much more in some of these other states with those sanctuary cities and stuff like that.
Right,
So
right.
I think we'll get some of that. I don't know how that gets distributed or in what percentages, but that's adding money to it. So and there's a couple other things they were doing that were just efficiency things.
Right.
And it needs to be a little more efficient. Because one of the things I want to talk about, I'm going to give you an idea of the inefficiency of the system. So,
Okay.
so the Medicaid, there are some things, but in my opinion, little to no impact whatsoever. There's one thing about the home housing equity limit that they're gonna cap, but there's a couple of good solutions for that if you have a home that's, valued over $1 million. So, anyway. So I'm satisfied it's no big deal. I'm not worried about it a bit. I don't think I'll even have to deal with it, to any extent.
Sure.
But so it's all good news as far as Medicaid.
Right.
Now there's all other kinds of stuff in that bill, and I read a lot of stuff about the border security, about the national security. I didn't spend too much time on some of the taxing issues because I'm not a tax attorney, and that stuff will give you a headache when you start trying to read it, in my opinion. But so I didn't read everything thoroughly. I skimmed over the areas that interest me because it's a long bill.
Yeah.
Actually, when they tried a stall tactic in the Senate, they said read it out loud. They all have it. They know what it is. They just
Yeah.
do it. It took 16 hours to read it.
16 hours.
Somebody to read it out loud. 16 hours.
Well, I'm impressed that I have a friend who's read it.
Well, listen, not every word, but I went through the ones. I probably read half of it.
Yeah.
Because there were some things in there that really interested me that I have nothing to do with my business, but
Sure.
just interest me as an American.
Sure.
And it was really cool. A lot of neat things. So, it's going to be very helpful, I think. And a lot of things that should have been done. That's the way you expect this country to be, some of the stuff they're putting in there. It's amazing that they have to do something to get back there.
It is
in my
amazing.
opinion. So,
Yeah.
anyway, so, I want to talk, I told you it was a good week, right?
Yes.
I have had 2 cases in TennCare. What's the word I can use? Rock in my shoe or a thorn in my side. Or trouble cases that
Yeah.
I just have been going back and forth with TennCare. Now, on these cases, here's what I do. Here's what I do on every case. If you come to me and you say, we need, so-and-so's in the nursing home, we need to get them eligible. We take a look at the three things I said, the medically needy, which is a doctor call,
Yeah.
And then the 2 places where we spend our time is on the income eligibility and the asset eligibility.
Yeah.
And those are stuff you own, right? And so
Yeah.
it's like, okay, we look at all this stuff because you can't just send an application in, because if you do, if you just fill this thing out, this 16-page TennCare application, send it in, it's not going to take a PhD to figure out that they're probably going to deny it for being over-resourced, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So we don't send in the application until we modify your resources. When I say modify it, what we're doing is we're changing the category from a countable asset to a non-countable asset. There's some various ways to do that. Because the statute says you got to have countable assets of less than $2,000.
Yeah.
And my first question is, who doesn't? And the answer is probably nobody.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not trying to get eligible, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a trivial amount of money when most assets are countable. So it makes you wonder if you think of it. If you think of that, because you often hear me say that doesn't mean $2,000 to your name. It means $2,000 of a specific category of assets. There
Right.
are other categories. People interpret that as $2,000 to your name. They say, you got to spend your money, you got to get rid of it, you got to give it away, you got to do whatever you do to get down. So you have nothing. You own nothing but $1,900 in a bank account.
Yeah.
Now that's a way, and I don't think it's a very good way, but that's a way, but that's not what it means. you recategorize the stuff. You ever heard the term spend down?
I have.
People talk about, the spend down is a legal term, it's defined in the 10-Care Act. And it doesn't say spend money, it says recategorize the money, just like I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So instead of using the word spend down, I talk about changing the category. It
Sure.
makes it a little more understandable. So we do that. And then we get them down where we're $2,000 of countable assets, but we may have 200,000 of non-countable.
Right.
And so then we file the application. Why? Because now they're eligible.
Yeah.
And we know they're eligible. And so if they deny us, we know it's an inappropriate denial, and we go to a fair hearing and you always win. Now, had this case, and I probably talked about it before because it's been around for a little over a year. So that's really long. Because normally when you file an application, in the neighborhood of 3 months. Since COVID, it's been more like 3 to 4, but nonetheless, 3 or 4 months, they'll usually approve.
Yeah.
In the meantime, they'll ask a couple questions, ask for a few documents, maybe a phone call, just whatever, and then they'll finally approve. And we know they're going to approve because we don't send the application in until they're 110% eligible.
Yeah.
Now, and when you deal with eligibility, the rules for a married couple are way different than the rules for an individual. Big difference. And so when this couple we were dealing with was a married couple. The husband one didn't care, and so we did all we needed to do, and we sent it in, and they denied it and said, well, we're denying it because of his over-resource, because they were treating, and after we analyzed their denial, we said, well, they're treating him like he's an individual instead of a married person, because this less than $2,000 is treated differently when you're married, because if you have more than that, you can literally give it to the spouse.
Yeah.
To become eligible.
Yeah.
Which is what we did.
Yeah.
And they completely ignored that and treated him like he was an individual. And so we kind of talked to him on the phone, and they kind of said, no, we're not going to. And so we go to a hearing. Well, let me back up. The first hearing we had, this one, when I talk about inefficiency,
Yeah.
this is going to be the story to beat for boneheadedness, or like you said, knuckleheadedness.
Knuckleheads,
whatever
yeah.
it is. This is the very case that, they make these information requests, right?
Yeah.
And so they make them, and we respond to them. We got 10 days to do it. And when we respond to them, we have a way to send them the information. Then we get a confirmation that it was received, and the confirmation shows little pictures of the pages that we faxed, right?
Yeah.
So they come back. We got our first denial was failure to respond to an information request, so you're denied. And so we said, well, we responded. Here's the day we responded. Here's the fax showing we sent it, and here's the confirmation from your fax machine that you got it. So
Yeah.
what the heck are you talking about? Didn't get it. Well, usually we can work that out by talking to them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's obviously a mistake. Anyway, they dug their heels in, and it cost us 6 months to get to a hearing.
Oh, wow.
Maybe more like 5, but nonetheless, we got to a hearing. And a hearing, we went back and forth. I mean, they were floundering because the court was saying, like, where could it be then? We got proof that it got sent, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
And I swear to gosh, this is what they call it, or no kidding.
Yeah.
During this hearing, all of a sudden, the attorney on 10-Care says something like, oh, okay, no, never mind, it's our bad, we found them. They accidentally got put in the wife's file. I'm about to fall off my chair, okay? It's like, first of all, I want to say, what the hell we got a wife's file for? We got an applicant patient that's not the wife. I
Yeah.
don't even know why we have, and what a bunch of, anyway.
Uh-huh.
And so what it was is now it just picks up where it left off in the middle of this processing. It's like, okay, we'll go back to processing the application, like as if we received it 2 or 3 months ago when we said you didn't send it.
Yeah.
So that cost us 6 months of nothingness.
Yeah.
Well, nothingness. That the nursing home is not getting paid for 6 months, and they're getting nervous.
Yeah.
Because when we're in 10-Care application pending status, we only have to pay the patient liability, which is income, not the
Right.
whole $10,000.
Right.
And so they're racking up this bill. Now I struggled to find a remedy for this, but I couldn't get the court's ear on it. It's like, I said, is that it? Oops, my bad. Is that what we're going to end up with? Anyway, it didn't seem like the case to push it forward because it was like, well, they found them, so they're going to go forward, so take that as a victory. And it's like, well, I don't, but I do, but I don't.
Yeah.
So anyway, they continued on. And they denied him again for the same reason after they looked at the information. We said, you're treating this guy like a individual and not a married couple. And so we went to a hearing. And the hearing upheld that argument. And what gets me is in the age blind and disabled manual, that's the TennCare manual, they have examples. We got 3 or 4 examples that they allow out. And this one of our case, this case fell in. I mean, it looked, if you changed the names, it was the example.
Yeah.
And they said, well, we don't really interpret it that way, so we're going to deny. And so what happened was, we were already a year into it this time with all these hearings. So I thought, well, if they're going to do that, then I'm going to run it up to state court and appeal it, because it's wrong, and I can't have this kind of precedent going on. I can't have them treating married people like this and starting to do it as a matter of course.
Oh my gosh.
So I filed an appeal to state court, and I started putting stuff together. We got a court date, and as we started approaching that, somebody reached out to us, a caseworker, and the caseworker was saying, I've been assigned this, I know it's headed for appeal, but I was looking at it, and it looks to me like there was a mistake. It looks like they treated him like an individual instead of a married person. It's like,
you've been telling them that the whole time.
No kidding, Sherlock.
Yeah.
I appreciate you doing that. And so they said, well, we're going to look this. I'm going to look this over. This was like right before the 4th. And they said, we're going to look this over. And I might have mentioned it back then. So we're going to look this over and see. I think we can get to this thing. So anyway, nothing happened the week after the 4th when they said they were going to get to us, and I was a little bit worried. So come the next week, which I guess was this week. I'm trying to get it straight in my head, but early this week we get the approval, and it was actually dated the 7th, which would have been the Monday after the 4th. They just didn't call and tell us.
Yeah.
So we get the approval, which is great news. And but this was filed in February 24.
Unbelievable.
And they're supposed to go back to the February filing date. They didn't. They only went back to October 1st for certain reasons. And so now the nursing home that I'm talking about got sold. And so it was owners that were there till December 31st of 2024, and now we have new owners there from January 1st forward. Okay.
Yeah.
So the new owners are getting paid all the back pay from January 1st of this year to today, or July 7th, or when it got approved. They're going to get all their money. But the previous owners who sent me a letter and said, hey, there's this, this person's private pay, how are you going to pay it? And I responded, no, he's not private pay, he's pending status, and we're not going to pay it until we get an approval, until we find out from TennCare what our status is.
Yeah.
And so they're going to get some pay, 3 months, three months of 2024, but they're going to be out about 7. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I can reach back 3 months under what we call UMEDs or IMEs, which are incurred medical expenses, and we can defer the patient liability towards the deficit. But I'm only back for 3 months for that. It's going to be 4 months that they're not going to get paid.
Wow.
So I'm analyzing this 4 months. This is the conclusion I came to. I said, you know what? My job was to get the gentleman eligible. I did. Now, the nursing homes are saying to the family, that attorney must be doing something wrong. It shouldn't take this long. They've been denied 3 times.
Yeah.
And I kept saying, I'll get there, and I'll get practically everything I want. But I'll get there. And of course, the family was hanging in there. They were still confident in me, but they were worried.
Oh,
right?
sure, yeah.
And so when I called them early this week, it was a big red letter day to give them the news. But so I'm dealing with this 4 months. I'm taking the position. You know what? TennCare caused these 4 months with this nonsense of filing the papers in the wife's file instead of the husband's file, which is the most ridiculous reason, and it's a flat out lie. I mean, there's no way that happened. There's just no way.
Yeah.
And even if it did, I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
Yeah.
And they just pulled that crap. And so, I pretty much told the facility, my client's not going to pay me to appeal this so that you can get paid. It's TennCare's fault. What we have here is you're the damaged party. TennCare was the bad actor. I said, you have a remedy. You have to sue TennCare. I said, now, if you need me as a witness to explain what happened and why it was wrong, I'm more than happy to do that. But I'm not going to have my client pay me to appeal this so that you get paid those 4 months. Now, it's an unfortunate situation, but it all came from the inefficiency of the government operation, because we lost 6 months because of that ridiculous first denial. I mean, and we tried so hard to resolve it before a hearing.
Sure.
We said, look, surely we can come to an understanding, because before we get to court, you asked for documents, we sent them. Now, we should spend our time on what happened to them, where did they go? We can prove we sent them. If you didn't get them, we'll send them again. But let's get past the part where you said we didn't send them, because here's the documentation and the proof. And that is the proof that the manual says you're supposed to provide to show that you actually sent the documents. You're doing exactly what it says. And I said, so even if you didn't get them and can't find them, don't ding us with failure to respond because we can prove we did. So
Yeah.
if you need them, how about we just send you another copy so that you have them? And they just dug their heels in on that. Now that is unreasonable for them.
It is
It's
unreasonable.
unreasonable. And so if that would have gone to appeal, and I don't understand why the administrative judge didn't hammer on that, but I tried to, but they wouldn't. He's just like, well, we're there now. I said, yeah, but what about that? Now this 6 months has come back to bite somebody.
Yeah.
And, it's $10,000 a month, so it's four months. I think I can get 3, and they'll have to deal with 4, but, maybe I only get 2. It just depends, but nonetheless.
Yeah.
So when I started this off and said they're doing some things for the Medicaid system to try to make things more efficient, I say, God bless them for doing that, because that is pure inefficiency there. I don't, and when it comes to these folks, when I explain things to them, they don't have to listen to me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you deal with other attorneys and stuff, usually you can sit down and talk about something and try to work something out, and maybe they'll see the wisdom in your logic or vice versa, and you can kind of hone in on some kind of solution.
Yeah.
But they don't have to do that. They don't have to talk to me and negotiate. And sometimes they'll just say that. Sometimes they'll just say, you know what, I've already denied it. I don't want to talk to you. I've got too much to do. You have a right. You have a remedy of appeal. And I just can't get through to them because I don't have to. I can't make them talk to me, right?
Yeah.
Now, some, if not a lot of them, do discuss it. Okay.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we resolve things like that. That's the first time that we had to go to a hearing on that denial. We've been denied before when they say,
Yeah.
we didn't get the documents. And we sit down and talk about it, and they finally find them and say, okay, they're here, our bad. But then they cancel the hearing, or cancel
Yeah.
the denial, and we pick back up. But
Right.
we've a couple, maybe weeks or just days at that point, So, the inefficiency abounds, and that's just one area, but it's an egregious one. And so now we have a damaged party to the tune of $40,000, $50,000 which is the prior owned, people that owned the facility before in 2024.
So their remedy would be, I guess, to sue TennCare.
Well, my client's doesn't really have standing. I
Yeah.
because TennCare.
Not your client, but I'm talking about the nursing home.
That's right. The nursing home is the one that caused the damage and the damaged party, so they're the people that need to litigate.
Wow.
But I mean, when they want to prove that their damages and stuff, I said I'm more than happy to testify as a witness and say, hey, this damages purely come from a gross negligence on these people's side of not having these documentations and canceling everything because they said they didn't get them. You can't just say, sorry, we didn't get them,
Yeah.
and then everything come to a grinding halt, and then people would be punished and penalized financially, and then 6 months later, say, oh yeah, here they are. Sorry, they were under something on my desk, or sorry, they were in the wrong file.
Yeah.
I mean, whose fault is that, and who has to bear the burden of any damage because of that?
Sure.
It's got to be them. That is negligent misrepresentation, because even though you can show you put in the wrong file, you knew, or you're held to a standard of you should have known.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're held to a standard not to put it in the wrong file.
Well, and running an office, it can happen.
It can happen.
It can happen.
But then if you have this situation, then let's look for them.
Yeah.
When somebody can prove to you they sent something,
Yeah.
then let's look for it.
Well, even when you did prove to them, to me the obvious thing was say, well, just resend them and we'll take them then. That would have been an easy solution, but they didn't do that.
I think I know where it comes from. They have something called the TennCare Connect portal,
Okay.
and you can do everything through this online portal. I don't do that, and I'll tell you why. Because it's even more messed up than what I just explained. And I'm just not going to do it. You can still send them in, and I think maybe they prefer you do that, probably because it is messed up. But anyway, I don't know. I'm suspecting that may be the reason, but whatever. Anyway, moving on, we had another case that was kind of similar. It wasn't quite as long. It was from January this year.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a married couple. And the same thing, they denied them because they treated them like a single person. So we were getting kind of worried, thinking, what's this shift in policy that they're treating married people like, because the rules are way different. I don't have time on the show to go into the rules, but they're way different.
Okay.
And they were treating them like individuals and denying, because there's certain things we do, the married thing, there's certain things you do for the application, then they come back with approval, then you got a 12-month grace period to transfer the assets to the spouse
Yes.
to get under the $2,000, right?
Yes.
Well, they're saying up front he's not under $2,000, he's not eligible. It's like, well, we don't have to be eligible at this point in time. We have to be eligible we have the grace period after approval to get there.
Yeah.
And so that's what they were changing. It's like, and now I sat with my team and I thought, one thing I don't want to do is start doing things in violation of the statute, wrong from the statute, for the sole reason that that's the way they're going to treat it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not going to start treating married people like single people and get them down below the $2,000 at the time of the application just because you're screwing it up and treating them that way.
Yeah.
I just felt like that's a slippery slope, big time.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, I'm just going to wait for the perfect case and then take that one into court and resolve it. I want to, because we want to make sure that they get told what their mistakes are and put it back. Because when you have a set of rules,
Yeah.
it creates an expectation.
Sure.
On my part. If I know what you're supposed to do, then I can expect what's happening. So, and when they just make it up and just change mine willy-nilly and do something different, then I get a little confused as this expectation. I said, I don't understand what you're doing or why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Anyway, but anyway, that one also, they just, we just made a phone call. We managed it. That one's one of those cases where we managed it. We had a hearing coming up. We actually got the date. And when you get the date, now it's on the other side, it kind of some sort of or bubbles up to their awareness once you get a date set.
Yeah.
When it's not even a date set, because they have 90 days to give you a date, right?
Yeah.
So from days 1 through 89, they don't much look at anything on that case, okay? But when you get a date set, which is really 2 weeks away, then they start looking at it, because, okay, we got to go to court on this one, let's find out what it's all about. When they do, we had called them, we got a hold of, somebody, and they said they're over-resourced, and we've said the same thing. What about this situation in the manual that talks about married people? And the person acted like he never understood. I didn't know there was a difference between married and single, which was very frightening to me to hear that. Okay, terrifying. Anyway, he said, "Let me talk to somebody else, somebody up in the attorney." Anyway, talked to an attorney. Attorney came back and said yes, and they gave us. They went all the way back to the very day of the application and gave us they approved and gave us eligibility, which is what they should have done.
Sure.
But that one was every bit of from January to now. It's a good 6 months for sure.
6 months. Wow.
And so they're going to pay back. And that was another one where people are starting to get antsy, like, why is this one taking so long? Did you guys do something wrong? And I keep telling everybody, I have never yet failed. And I can't guarantee a result. I'm not allowed to. But I can tell you about my history.
Yeah.
My track record is I've not failed to get anybody eligible yet. Now those two, definitely troublesome cases, but we got there. And I kept telling everybody, we'll get there. Trust me, we'll get there. And we did.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think the confidence was getting low on some people's end, and I can understand why. But we got there. And I've not failed at a fair hearing yet. I've been successful in fair hearings on every single one. And there's more of those than you think there is.
It's because you know the rules backwards and forwards.
And sometimes that seems like a curse because I know the rules, that's where it should be, and that's not the way any other people do it.
What's amazing about that last story is it was fixed with a 1 day phone call. Something that's been dragging out for 6 months.
That's right.
That's just maddening.
And it did so because we just got the date for the hearing.
That's so maddening.
Mm-hmm. It is. So, it's frustrating even to me who I do this, right?
Yeah.
So, we get people that say, I think I'll save some money and do it myself application. So you can certainly do that. You can be what they call a helping person.
Yeah.
And help your mom or your aunt or somebody fill out the application.
Yeah.
But again, it's when you look at the application, it's 16 pages long. But when you read the questions, they're not that difficult to answer. I mean, there's a lot of medical questions in there, but there's also a lot about your income and your assets. Now, the problem with that is, they say how much money you have in the bank, you just answer the question, right? And pretty easy. The questions aren't hard.
Yeah.
What you got to know is what you're going to do with that answer.
Yeah, exactly.
If they're going to look at that and say, yeah, well, you got more than you're supposed to have, denied.
Yeah.
That's the problem. So before you fill the application, we manipulate or recategorize everything until you are eligible. And then when we send it in, you're eligible. But then sometimes they don't understand what we did, and they just fail on the side of caution and say, well, I don't know what's going on here, so I'm just going to deny.
Yeah.
And of course, that's the lower level people. A lot of times when it gets to the attorneys for 10 care, we get more successful because they understand how things work better than the caseworkers. But it was a great day to be able to call the family on both of those and say, look, we got there. I've been telling you, and actually I called the one gal, the wife, for when it went over a year. She said, well, Mr. Tan, you kept saying we'll get there, and we did, so I'm so
Yeah.
glad. You know, because I did. Every time she'd come in and say, hey, I tried to go see my husband, and the nursing home grabbed me and pulled me in the room and said, when are you going to pay us? When are you going to pay us? I'd send them a letter and say, well, we don't have to pay because we're in status pending. We're only paying the estimated patient liability according to the law.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, when TennCare approves, which they will, they'll pay you all this money you're owed that you are
Sure.
trying to get the wife to pay.
Sure.
And, you know, when they do that, and they do it a lot, they want her to pay
Yeah.
for the husband. When you do that, you know, we shift money to the spouse. It's called the Community Spouse Resource Allowance. And that is federally protected money. To even ask her to pay out of that money is a crime.
Really?
It is. And one of these days I'm going to pull that card. Right now, usually a letter, they leave her alone. 'Cause
Right.
I remember asking her, she said, yeah, ever since you wrote that letter like a month and a half ago, I've not heard a word from anybody. But one of these days I'm going to pull that card I just get tired of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to run a nursing home, is it really asking too much that you know and understand the rules?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not talking about the care. So don't call me and say, hey, the nurses there are the greatest. I'm not bashing the nurses that work there, or the doctors, or the people that administer care. I'm talking about the administration, how it's run, and the payment end of it. If you're going to run a nursing home, I think it would behoove you to hire somebody, either learn how it works or hire somebody that knows how it works.
Yeah.
I actually know a person. I dealt with a gal here in Tennessee who did a lot of this kind of work. She wasn't an attorney, but she was a certified Medicaid planner. And she ended up getting a job with a nursing home, dealing with stuff like this. And so, you know, I think that was a good move on whoever hired her.
Yeah, it would be.
You know, so I think that what you do, because this constant back and forth, this fighting, the hard feelings that get created all the time, it's just not worth it. I mean, it's not necessary, that's for sure, because you shouldn't be doing it.
Absolutely.
And I shouldn't have to remind you of it. And sometimes when I remind you of it, they take like they don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you know, we're not getting paid, we need to get paid. And it's like, I get that. We're trying, really, I'm probably your best friend. I'm trying to get you paid.
Yeah.
Because as soon as he's approved, TennCare is going to pay you.
Yeah.
You know, getting mad at me isn't, getting mad at the only person that's on your side right now.
It's got to be due to a lack of understanding.
It is, and it's confusion. There's a ton of rules, and they don't make sense when you look at them for the first time. It's like that $2,000 rule. You know, that's completely misunderstood by 99% of the people that will come across it.
Yeah.
It says you got to have less than $2,000 accountable assets, and you just hone in on that word 2,000. The word you should hone in on is the word countable.
Yeah.
That's the key to that. So it's anyway. You know, when the rule.
If I was in charge of a facility like that, I would almost hire you to.
Well, or someone like me, I would think.
Or someone like you.
Just like that gal that got hired. Somebody understands.
That says at least have you in my corner and say we understand what you're doing, and the money will flow when we get things lined up like it's supposed to.
And there are some attorneys out there. You know, one of my wife's favorite phrases are "stay in your lane."
Yeah.
If I'm in the kitchen trying to do something, it's like, stay in your lane. Go in the garage and work on something, but you're out of your lane in the kitchen here, right? You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
And she's right. She's right. Stay in your lane. And there's some attorneys out there that will attempt to file a TennCare application, and they won't do a very good job because they don't understand. They're out of their lane.
Yeah.
So, if you hire somebody to do that, quiz them a little bit. Ask them about their track record.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Maybe ask them for a referral of somebody that they got eligible and how that went.
Yeah.
And you're entitled to do that. And if they balk at giving you that information, then that's a very big red flag.
Yeah.
So, there are people, I do it. We're pretty good at it. There's others out there that do it. Kind of far and few between for some reason, but there are other folks out there that do it.
Yeah.
So, and it's a big deal because I take on do-it-yourself applications. I keep saying I'm going to not do these anymore because they're a real hassle. Because when somebody does a do-it-yourself and gets denied, now they panic and they come to me and say, can you help? I filed this application, got denied, now what? Well, right off the bat, my options are limited. So I'm stuck with a denied application.
Yeah.
And sometimes, if I can't resurrect it in some form, which sometimes we can, but if I can't, we just scrap it and do another one. But now all the time from when that's been filed till now is lost.
Yeah.
And I can't do anything about it.
There's nothing you can do
But
about
now when we file a new one, if we have to file a new one, we do it right.
Yeah.
Now there's another 3 or 4 months. And so now now they owe for the time that the original application was denied.
Yeah.
They're in private pay. So, and so I keep telling my staff I'm not taking on any do-it-yourself applications anymore. But when people come to me and it's just a mess, I don't know. My heartstrings just feel for them. I do, because I know I can fix it. Sometimes it's just going to be, and that's what I tell them now. I say, listen, we can fix this, but there's a lot to do. It's gonna take a while.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're okay with that, then we'll go ahead and take it. But,
Right.
Because I've got to undo what happened. Typically, is what.
Yeah.
Or fix the denial. And sometimes you can fix it pretty easily. Sometimes you can't. But it's usually always fixable to some extent. It's just not ideal, and a degree of how non-ideal is it.
Yeah.
But it's better than not getting it approved at all.
Yeah,
in
which this kind of brings us, if you want to go here, this kind of brings us circles around to how important it is to do some pre-planning.
Oh yeah. Especially as long as we're staying on the concept of long-term care.
Yeah,
And that's what I'm going to talk about at the seminar. When I say wills, trust, in the nursing home.
yeah,
When I talk about the nursing home, we're going to talk about that asset protection trust that you often hear me talk about.
yeah,
And the asset protection trust is kind of preparing yourself for long-term care eligibility just way in advance.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Well, everything I talked about so far, these cases that I talked about, are what we call crisis cases, which means somebody's already in care.
Yeah.
You come to me and say, hey, my wife is in a nursing home. I don't want to lose everything. What do we do? Well,
Yeah.
they're already there. They're already in care.
yeah,
The asset protection trust is a pre-planning tool. It's a tool that you come to me and you're more of this stature. You say, you know what, my wife and I, we're retired or getting close to retirement or whatever. We're so X number of years old. And if one of us ever goes into long-term care, we sure don't want to lose everything we own.
Right.
I mean, we're not in long-term care. We're not knocking on the door. We really don't have any anticipation that's going to happen
Yeah.
anytime in the near future. That's the pre-planning. Now, if we put all our assets into this trust, or the big ticket assets, okay, like houses, real estate, all the real estate, and the maybe brokerage accounts or investment accounts,
Sure.
and stuff like that. So now that I talked about this concept of countable assets, when you put these things into an asset protection trust, the very minute you deed your real estate into an asset protection trust, you have changed it from a countable asset to a non-countable asset. Just the land alone takes out hundreds of thousands of dollars of countable assets.
Yeah.
Because your primary residence is a countable asset.
right,
If you have what called other real estate, which is not your primary residence, and it's not contiguous to the primary residence, the definition is kind of squirrely, but if it's contiguous, and what that means is if you've got a 10-acre lot and your house is on it, and you live there, that's your primary residence. Now, if the lot next door to you opens up and it's 10 acres and you buy it, that's also your primary residence because they share a boundary
they're
line.
connected.
But the definition is if you have another lot and a third-party owner is between you and that lot, in other words, not touching yours,
Right,
now that's classified as other real estate. Now that's countable, and the primary residence is countable, but it's an excluded asset. It's something we can do with it
right,
until you die. People say it's protected. Poor choice of words. It's not protected. It's just deferred. What it is that they'll exclude it, take it out of the countable assets column, but at your death, they're going to go after what's in your estate. Now remember, the house, it didn't go anywhere. You still own it. It's still a countable asset. Now they exercise the 10-Care Estate Recovery Act and go after the house.
yeah,
But there's a way to protect that. But so the idea is when you put property in this asset protection trust, you're making it non-countable. And you can't get at it. And so you have this limited access to the property that's in the trust.
yeah,
You have control of everything, but you limit your access. And so when we do that, it's not available to you for the cost of care. So we get these big ticket items in that trust, and then we're in pretty good shape. If anybody needs to go into care, the only thing we have to worry about protecting is what's not in the trust. And the whole idea was to put all these big ticket items into the trust.
exactly.
It works like a champ. But when people are in crisis, it happens. Either they just didn't do anything, or some things that put people in crisis do come out of the blue, like a stroke in the middle of the night.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's one of those ones where you rehabilitate, but you just never quite recover, where you don't need some help. You know what I mean? I mean, you don't see that coming.
You don't see it coming.
Some things you might see coming, like get an early diagnosis of the onset of dementia. You might get a little heads up when that happens. But it's, things like that. But I would say if you're a person who maybe have heart issues, or physical issues you know that could someday land you there, pre-planning would be a smart thing to do.
Absolutely. I think it's a smart thing for anybody, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I do too. Now, people in midlife just don't do it because it's like, I'm not really worried about long-term care just yet.
Yep.
That's what I said in my 30s and 40s. I'll worry about that later.
Yeah, worry about it later. Yeah.
But when you're in your 50s or 60s or even your 70s, it's a good time to do it because essentially you're healthy. Because if we do this asset protection trust, we're stuck with this 5-year rule.
Yeah.
And so we want to be able to get past that. So we want to, so if you come to me and somebody's already in care, the asset protection tool is usually not the best solution because, that really does its best work after it's been there for 5 years.
Yes.
And now we don't have 5 years because somebody's already in care. And so that it's not always the best tool. It is sometimes if we want to save the family farm, we'll dump 1,000 acres of the family farm into this trust and now there's no way they can get at it because it's non-countable.
Yeah.
It may create a penalty period for us, but we save the farm. Especially when you got sometimes people say, we got this farm. It belongs to Aunt Gertrude and she's in the nursing home, okay? And we got 3 families that rely on the income producing of this farm. We have 3 families that's their living.
Yeah.
And it's the marching orders to me. We absolutely, positively, under all circumstances, have to save the farm.
Yeah.
Well, a good way to make sure we do that is drop it into an asset protection that's right then and there. Even though it's at the late date, it's probably going to trigger a penalty period, but there's ways we can deal with the penalty period.
Sure.
But no matter what, we're saving the farm.
Right.
And so, but the better thing to do is put that farm in there years ago.
Right.
I mean, you still use it as a farm. It's still income producing. You still live there. You still do it's when you drop it into the asset protection trust, the use of the real estate is 100% seamless to you. Everything is the same. Nothing changes.
Yeah.
If it's income producing and because you're growing corn, just keep doing that. If you got cattle, keep doing it. It's the same thing. Income taxes that you pay is exactly the same as it was before you put it in there. It's seamless, just seamless. But the end result is it's a non-countable asset to you if you go into long-term care.
Right.
So there's a methodology behind it all. You can't just, and going to the internet for information is very disappointing.
I'm sure.
First of all, it's all over the place.
It is.
Second of all, some of it's true, but not complete.
Yeah.
Most of it's just plain not right. And it's a shame.
And if you don't know, you don't know.
I mean, what's today? The 18th, right?
Yeah.
On the 31st of July, the Medicaid Act, the act that gives you long-term care in the States, will be 60 years old.
Yeah.
And I still don't understand it.
Yeah.
I swear to gosh, it's still not very well understood. I understand it, but I put in the time to do that. But I mean, in general, just like we talked about earlier, the nursing homes, it's just not well understood. So I don't know. I have no explanation for that. I don't want to wade into a pond unless I know what's in it.
Yeah.
So I'm not wading into an area alone unless I know how it works.
Yeah.
And it may take some time to figure that out, but I don't know why people just don't put in the time to do it. Now, if you're a do-it-yourself application, you're not going to put in that kind of time to do your application. You're better off hiring somebody, and for a lot of the reasons that we talked about. That is an area of law where, if ever people need an advocate, it's there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you're going to get steamrolled over, okay, and you're not going to know why, because it's unreasonable to expect the average person to understand the entirety of the 10 Care Act.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody that would want to. I mean, talk about getting a headache. Sit down and read 10 Care Act.
I had a quick question regarding the asset protection trust. For the average person, let's say plenty of time ahead of time, all that kind of stuff, they're pre-planning. Who controls the trust?
Well, it can be the maker of the trust.
Okay.
But that's not always the best person. If you're advanced years and already have health issues, it probably ought to be someone else.
Okay.
And what I like to do, the courts have been clear. You can be, if you're the maker of the trust, you can be the trustee. But the key is, you got to act like the trustee, because they're actually 2 separate capacities. They have different duties and responsibilities, right? So if you're going to be the trustee of your own trust, then you got to wear the hat of the trustee, and you can't cut yourself a free pass and say, well, I'm the maker of the trust and the trustee, so I'm just going to take this money out of the trust and give it to myself. The trustee's not allowed to do it. So you got to look at it as if somebody else was the trustee and they're not allowed to do it, then you're not allowed to do it. If the trust says, the trust is very clear on trustee powers and trustee prohibitions. So if the trustee can do it, you can do it. If the trustee can't do it, you can't do it just because you're both parties,
Okay.
So you got to put your trustee hat on when you're a trustee and put your trustor hat on when you're the trustor.
Okay.
And that's where people can get into trouble. Because I tell them, you can't, if you're gonna be the trustee, you gotta act like the trustee.
So
But that, if it's not them, it's usually an adult child or somebody like that. That's very typical.
yeah, okay, interesting.
And then the trustee, you said who controls it, that's the trustee.
The trustee controls it.
Trustee has no ownership, they just control it.
They don't own it.
They have absolutely no
Whatever's in the
ownership.
trust belongs to the trust.
Well, it's in the trust for the benefit of the makers of the trust, that's right.
Yeah,
But it belongs to the trust, that's right.
interesting.
And that's evident, because I talk about when we put property in this trust, we're stuck with that 5-year rule.
Yeah,
So people ask me, can trust roll change and get messed up? Can it change? Well, it hardly ever changes. So, in the time I have left, I'm going to go over this because I think it's important to understand. Trust law has absolutely, positively nothing to do with TennCare law or Medicaid law. Nothing. And Medicaid law, or here in Tennessee, 10K law, has absolutely, positively nothing to do with trust law. They are separate. They are not one and the same.
yeah,
However, one can influence the other.
yeah,
And here's how it influences. This is this 5-year rule. Now, TennCare says if you give anything away, you hear people talk about the 5-year rule?
Yeah.
It only applies to gifts.
yeah,
A lot of people, I have somebody come to me and say, hey, I want to sell my house, but I'm worried about the 5-year rule. I said,
Right.
well, it doesn't apply, sell it.
right,
It's only if you're going to give the house away. And so it only applies to gifts. Now, the word gift is not in the statutes. I use the word gift because it implies you're not getting anything for it.
right,
It's called a divestment, or an uncompensated transfer. But if you think of it as a gift, that helps. So it only applies to gifts. So TennCare says if you give something away and don't get paid for it, that's a divestment.
Yeah.
And that's all they say. And
Yeah.
what that means is they don't care if you give it to your kid, give it to the church. People think, well, surely I can make contributions to the church. Yeah, you can make them, but they're going to count them as gifts.
yeah,
Or if you give it to your mailman. I mean, if you give it away to anybody and don't get paid for it, that's a divestment. The 5-year rule applies.
yeah,
Okay? Well, when we put it into a trust, that is a change of ownership. So
All right.
TennCare considers that a divestment. So they have nothing to do with each other, but as an effect, because TennCare says if you give it away and don't get paid for it, it's a
Yeah.
divestment. When we put a $500,000 house in an asset protection trust, the asset protection trust does not pay us $500,000 cash for that.
right,
And that's the definition of a divestment. So when we put it in trust, we're stuck with this 5-year rule because we've divested ourselves. The trust
Yeah.
now owns it.
the trust owns, yeah,
That's right. And so, they don't address the trust in TennCare. They just say if you give it away and don't get paid, it's a gift. And
Yeah.
we're going to hammer you with the penalty period for the gift. So, gifts can be made in many different ways. And so the trust, and because you think about it, if you put a $500,000 in the trust and the trust paid you $500,000 for it, you would have not advanced your position one iota. You still have a $500,000 asset outside the trust that's countable.
yeah,
The whole idea of putting it in trust is to make it uncountable
right,
or non-countable. So we have to deal with that because of that. So they don't have anything to do with each other, but one can affect the other because of the way they interpret what you do under the
sure,
trust law.
sure,
And there was a lot of talk about that changing, and some people call me and say, I thought it already was 7 years, but it's still 5 years. And with this current administration, I'm pretty sure they're not going to change it. But I still think someday in the future it's going to change.
could change.
But I think we're okay for a while, let me put it that way.
So you think at some point they'll increase those years?
Yep. And I'm just shocked the last administration didn't do it. I was waiting for that shoe to drop all 4 years. A couple times they talked about it. Talked about 7 years and they talked about 10 years. It just kind of never got the steam, and it just kind of, the talks fizzled out and never got anywhere.
Yeah,
So I still think that's going to happen someday, but I think because the new administration decides to fund the country in other ways, like
Yeah.
the tariffs and all
Yeah.
the savings and the doging and stuff, that they're not interested in. And the whole reason of making it more than 5 years is there's a lot of money there.
yeah, yeah, there is.
When we changed it from 3 years to 5, that was in 2006 when we adopted the Deficit Reduction Act.
Yeah,
And when you think about it, it wasn't our deficit they were trying to reduce.
that's right.
It was the government's deficit. And that's why changing it from 3 to 5 is favorable to them. It's less property that you can get out of the estate.
Sure.
Or make non-countable and available for you to have to pay it, for you to care and fund the program. So,
The government money grab.
yep. I mean, that's right. So I don't worry so much about them changing the 5 years to something else. I don't think it's going to happen soon. But I do think it's going to happen. It's just inevitable. Now, that creates a window to get get in on this.
Yeah, it does.
I often said if they ever change it to like 7 years or 10 years, I'm either going to retire or there will be a line from my office here to Lawrenceburg to get signed up before it goes into effect.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's going to happen. So don't wait for that. I mean, don't think this is like, okay, I can procrastinate this another 3 or 4 years. I mean, I come to the seminar, see what we have to say. Maybe do it. So coming down to the wire, let me remind everybody tomorrow, the 19th, Saturday.
That's right.
Will's Trust in the Nursing Home. It's my live seminar. It's going to be at the Star Theater on the Square in Pulaski at 105 North 1st Street, Pulaski, Tennessee. 10 o'clock a.m. I start as soon as 10 o'clock as I can, unless I see a bunch of people trying to find parking places. But nonetheless, I start pretty close to 10 o'clock. And it's nonstop information for about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's good, because a lot of times I say, when I'm talking, I can hear a pin drop. I've got everybody's undivided attention, so you'll like it when we get there. Then at the end of it, we have questions and answers, and I will stay as long as I need to answer every question. Don't have a question and leave without an answer. I offer the time freely. If you have it, bring it with you. If you develop it during the presentation,
Yeah.
save it and ask it during the Q&A. So
Yeah.
that's tomorrow. And again, if you want to give me a call, Pierchoski State Law, Pierchoski Elder Law, you can do so at 931-363-7222. I can't say that again because I'm running out of time.
Oh, we got time.
Do we? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the clock behind you, which is
Yeah,
a
we've
little
got
bit-
another minute, so
Okay.
we're okay.
But I'm just saying, let me say the number again, 363-931-363-7222. Or you can go to my website, estateplanstand.com, and you can get my phone number, ask a question by email, see
Yeah.
my calendar where I'm going to be. If you can't RSVP for the seminar tomorrow, just come on. Welcome's welcome.
Absolutely.
Welcome.
10 o'clock tomorrow at the Star Theater on Pulaski Square. You can't miss it. And beautiful square over there. Plenty to do. So
I think the the farmers market's out on Saturday.
Yes,
So if
let's
you want
go.
to shop for some veggies and
be a nice day. Take you and your spouse, your loved one, a family member, or somebody go. I promise you, it'll be worth your time spent with Stan Pierchoski. Pierchoski Estate Law every Friday here on WDXC, and of course we have the Facebook feed that you can look at and YouTube, and of course, good Lord willing, we'll see you next Friday, Mr.
we
Stan.
will. We will.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure, Jeff.
Always enjoy it. Always seem to learn a little bit more, and it's always good. Always.
And I'm
good.
working on your honorary degree.
My honorary degree. I'm gonna be a lawyer before this is
By
over.
osmosis.
Thank you, Stan, for being with us.
Always a pleasure.
Trump critic is going off the air. And the
Oh, did you hear they canceled that guy?